saved wrestling and created the Attitude Era. So I guess that is not accurate, as Larry Zybyscko was the one who created the idea of the NWO, based off an idea that they wanted to have the AWA invade WCW. But when AWA went belly up, they used the idea of the WWE invading WCW, and that was the Outsiders and the eventual turn of Hulk Hogan into Hollywood Hogan, and the rest is history. But a really great interview. I love listening to the stories of these guys back in the day, of all the traveling they used to do, and how they used to get to and from matches, and in the middle of nowhere, and carpooling, and it was just a totally different era and generation of professional wrestling, and getting back and forth to territories. Makes you really appreciate wrestling as a whole, where now it just over glorified, and as Paul London said, it's well done. It's just overly rehearsed and practiced too much, and just nobody really goes on instinct anymore. Everything is according to itineraries and plans, and just everything's read and practiced over and over and over and over and over. But it's just where wrestling has gone today, is it's become more of an entertainment value than an actual athletic event. And it's kind of sad that it's gone that way. We kind of hope it goes back to the way it used to be. And we all thought it was when WWE started using a lot of these smaller framed guys. But it didn't happen. And they started, once again, they're going to the bigger framed, with the Brock Lesnar's and the Randy Orton's. And I know their heavyweight champion right now is not the largest guy in the world, and it's just the way it is. I would love them to bring back the cruiserweight division, as did Larry Zybyscko. Him and I had a talk about that, and he said they should bring back the cruiserweight division and get these guys the notoriety they deserve, because having them compete against these 300-pound guys, it doesn't make any sense. It's really not believable, to see a guy, and I love Daniel Bryan, but it's not believable to see a guy like Daniel Bryan beat Brock Lesnar, or beat Randy Orton, or have Rollins defeat Lesnar. It doesn't, to me, it just doesn't, come off that way. Or see CM Punk defeat The Undertaker. It's not believable. So, is it believable to see a guy like Seth Rollins take on Dean Ambrose and put on an absolute clinic for the Cruiserweight Championship? Absolutely. No doubt about it. Would it be great to see Randy Orton maybe take on Brock Lesnar for the Heavyweight Championship? I think so. I think that would be a great match. Maybe Roman Reigns takes on Brock Lesnar, or maybe Kane, or The Undertaker. Now you start getting more of these 300-pound guys back. Maybe we build up the heavyweight division where they're actually heavyweights, where they're 250 plus. Let the 220 and unders, let them cruiserweight. Let them take care of themselves down there. Okay, but let's move on to the Jobbers Tournament, where it saw the finals of former world champion the Great Khali take on the Brooklyn Brawler. And we had some back and forth opinions about this for a couple of weeks now, as we were waiting for this one to come to a conclusion, and it finally saw the Brooklyn Brawler victorious. He finally wins a match, defeating the Great Khali and winning the greatest all-time Jobbers Tournament here at Damage 365. So congratulations to the Brooklyn Brawler, and also congratulations to the Great Khali, finishing second, the only world champion in the bracket, but it wasn't enough to win the bracket, as the Brooklyn Brawler is victorious. He is the all-time greatest jobber in the history of wrestling. I don't know if that's the that's the greatest achievement he might want to be recognized as, but I personally liked it. It was a great bracket though. So I wanna reopen up the bracket, and I want to go over it and show you in this case not show you, but the all-time greatest jobbers that started with round number 1. This bracket had Yoshi Tatatsu, Brutus Beefcake, Coco Beware, Heath Slater, Moondog Spot, Santino Marella, Pete Doherty, Rick McGraw, Alex Wright, SD Special Delivery Jones, Johnny Rods, Eric Watts, Iron Mike Sharp, Tony Gurria, Tommy Angel, Bushwhacker Luke, Bushwhacker Butch, Sam Houston, Barry Horowitz, Von Cruz, also known as Big Vito, Jim Powers, Titus O'Neil, Sin Cara, The Brooklyn Brawler, Corporal Kirshner, Terry Gibbs, Johnny Ace, a.k.a. John Laurinaitis, Mike Saxon, The Genius, Leaping Lanny Poffo, Jinder Mahal, Rocky King, Conquistador 1, Conquistador 2, Buck Zumhoff, The Great Khali, Rip Oliver, David Isley, Rene Goulet, The Disco Inferno, Buddy Lee Parker, Salvatore Bellomo, Tom Stone, Paul Roma, Gino Carabello, The Italian Stallion, Brian Adams, a.k.a. Crush, Sergeant Craig Pittman, Van Hammer, Dwayne Gill, a.k.a. Gilberg, Norman Smiley, Tim Horner, Barry Hardy, Drew McIntyre, Boris Zukov, Norman the Lunatic, Frank Williams, the Mulkey Brothers, Bastion Booger, the Red Rooster Terry Taylor, Jose Luis Rivera, Firebreaker Chip, Mario Mancini, the Job Squad, Dangerous Danny Davis, and Barry O. That was your 64-man bracket that saw the final 4 of the Great Khali taking on Brian Adams, Drew McIntyre against Terry Taylor, and that broke into Drew McIntyre taking on the Great Khali, and Iron Mike Sharp taking on the Brooklyn Brawler. That was your final 4, and your final was the Brooklyn Brawler defeating the Great Khali. So the only world champion in the bracket falls to the Brooklyn Brawler. So he will light his cigar in victory, and we are proud to announce that the winner of the greatest jobber in professional wrestling history goes to Mr. Lombardi, the Brooklyn Brawler. Congratulations to the Brooklyn Brawler, and we move on, and we want to get into the all-time greatest tag teams in the history of wrestling. Yes, folks, 200. That's 200. 200 wrestlers. Well, sorry, 400 wrestlers, but 200 tag teams are involved in this tournament, and I am going to read them to you. This is going to take a little bit, probably. Maybe we should get a little. Background noise. Let's see, a little music for you folks to play while we're while we're doing this. Let's see. Maybe a lot of these guys, it'll be a perfect opportunity to play maybe a Saturday Night Main Events theme. So here we go. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here are the contestants for the all-time tag team tournaments. It's King Kong Bundy and Big John Studd. They will be battling it out with APA in round number 1. Lanny and Angelo Poffo will take on Bret the Hitman Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the original Hart Foundation. The Mega Powers. This is a weird one, how this fell. The Mega Powers are taking on Randy Savage and Zeus. So Macho Man, regardless, wins and loses. But it's the Mega Powers versus Randy Savage and Zeus. The Fabulous Rougeau Brothers will take on Maven and Simon Dean. Cactus Jack and Mikey Whiplash take on the Russians. Balls Mahoney and Masato Tanaka, they will take on Triple H and Chyna. The Outsiders, that is Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, they will take on the Smoking Guns. The Rockers, they will take on the Lucha Dragons. Team Bestie will take on Steve Williams and Ted DiBiase. Paul London and Brian Kendrick, the longest reigning WWE World Champion, Tag Team Champions of all time, they will take on Demolition, Axe and Crush. That's right, Axe and Crush. Raven and Stevie Richards will take on that Canadian guy and Dean Malenko. The Minnesota Wrecking Crew will take on Rated RKO. Harlem Heat will take on the Beautiful People. Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner will take on the Hardy Boys. Evolution, they will battle it out with the Harris Twins. Dory and Terry Funk take on David Otunga and Curtis Axel. The Godwins will battle it out with Billy and Chuck. Paul Orndorff and Rowdy Roddy Piper, they will take on the Valiant Brothers. Too Cold Scorpio and the Sandman will take on Soul Patrol. Air Boom will take on Sin Cara and Rey Mysterio. The Untouchables will take on the original Wild Samoans. That should be an interesting matchup for sure. And let's see, we continue to the next bracket, and then that will be the Body Donnas. They'll take on Chris Candido and Lance Storm. The recently inducted WWE Hall of Famers, the Bushwhackers. They'll take on the Can-Am Connection. The Ascension will take on Jerry Show. The Headbangers will take on Lex Luger and Sting. Sabu and Rob Van Dam will take on the Nasty Boys. Rybaxel, that's Curtis Axel and Ryback. They'll take on Randy Savage and Jerry the King Lawler. The Legion of Doom 2.0, they'll take on Showmiz. Sabu and the Tasmaniac will take on Tons of Funk. The Strike Force will take on Yokozuna and Owen Hart. The Dream Team will take on the British Bulldogs. Too Cold Scorpio and Marcus Alexander Bagwell will take on the Head Shrinkers. The Dudley Boys will take on Doom. That should be a really, really, really good one. Doom, a very, very underrated team of the Natural Butch Reed and Ron Simmons. Tony Stetson and Larry Winters will take on the Wolves. David Flair and Crowbar battle out with the Basham Brothers. The Generation X will take on Booker T and Goldust. Miz and Mizdow will take on the Oddities. Kronos and Saturn take on High Energy. Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman take on the Prime Time Players. Mike Awesome and Raven, they'll take on the Foreign Legion. Jay and Jules Strongbow battle it out with Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Techno Team 2000 take on Rosie and the Hurricane. The Killer Bees will take on John Morrison and The Miz.